Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me specially invite Mr. President, the President of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Engineer Adekunle Olumuyiwa Mokolu, to come and officially introduce our special guest to this forum. Please, can we put our hands together for Mr. President?
Your Highness, Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Lamido Sanusi II, we are very, very grateful that you are here with us today. Past presidents that are present here, the fellows and members, today is a high point of our 2018 annual conference of our great and noble society, the Nigerian Society of Engineers. But before I go on, in calling the name of our father here, I think I made a mistake, and I want the chairman of KADA branch to give me the correct way of addressing our royal father. So you can approach me anytime you're ready. Write it for me. I want to properly say it. Now, today is an unusual day, and I'm welcoming all of you to history. History because this is the first time we will have in our midst a person that is highly respected. Thank you. Let me pause to repeat myself in a proper form. I would like to welcome into our midst His Highness Muhammad Sanusi II, CON, Emir of Kano. You're welcome. The beauty of engineering is that when you make mistake, you repeat until you become an expert. It will not happen again. Now, why I'm so grateful to His Highness is that we had written a letter a long time ago for him to be at our opening ceremony. When we couldn't get the reply to that, we decided that we are going to see him in his palace. And let me tell you, that palace is wow. Sir, I congratulate you, sir. I am saying that in the next few years, sir, you have to make that place a tourist attraction. Just like the Buckingham Palace. Just like the Buckingham Palace in London. I have never seen such a splendor. And when we made that decision to invite His Highness to our opening ceremony for this conference, we thought we have to be very, very strategic. Who is that Seriki that we know, a royal father that we know, that has made his mark in the public service, has made his mark in the private sector and has made his mark as a community leader. In such an excellent form, making a mark is one thing, but to be excellent continuously is another thing. And we realized that His Highness here is somebody that touches his body, touches his mind for the development of this country. We realize that, as a matter of fact, under his watch, he sanitized the financial sector of this nation with a lot of courage. With a lot of courage. Some people could have shied away from it. But his boldness was more than that of a lion. So indeed, we know that he is really a great album of inspiration to us all. That if we emulate him, as we have now celebrated our Diamond Jubilee, diamond, we know, when it's discovered, the work has just started. We need to polish it. And in polishing it, we need to torture our bodies and our minds to be able to get to the place where the value of engineers will be so attractive and very visible to all Nigerians, particularly our political leaders. So it is this regard that on behalf of the entire membership of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, I say, Rankedere, Sonude Zua. Sonude Zua. Sonude Zua. Now, a little bit of adjustment of our program. We are supposed to have our communique, but our father here made a lot of sacrifice to be here. He caught the 7 a.m. flight when some of us were still rolling on our beds to be able to be here today. There's a lot of sacrifice. And it's worthy of our emulation. But we should not stretch him further. What we'll do is, by the time I invite him to come and give us his goodwill message, because I whispered to him that, sir, yours is a spring of knowledge and wealth of experience. We want to drink from it. It's so fresh because we know that when we come to the palace, in fact, the library, I'm not trying to exaggerate, is 3/4 of this hall. And the books from floor to up, with all the chairs and some comfort for you to read. And sincerely, I just wish, I don't even know the words that I can use to describe what I saw, so as to be able to encourage us that the way of excellence, the way of expertise is to continue to read and to read and to read and to read. And the boldness to be able to do the right thing and say the truth at all times, damning the consequence for the benefit of mankind. Because here we are today, we are the custodians and the ones that are responsible for the development of this country. The game has changed. So it's not about what we say, it is now about what we do. And we are going to emulate His Highness in ensuring that this country will be a great place and the destination of all the citizens of the world. Because we have to change the game. Right now, as I speak to you, people are bribing are giving out bribes to be able to be slaves in other countries. And what are they going to see there? Just good roads, water, good power, and so on. And we have the capacity, both intellectual and material, in this country, through our engineers, to be able to deliver that for Nigeria. It's in that regard that I'm craving, sir, Your Highness. I want you to hold our hands and lead us. We want your collaboration, we want your partnership, we want everything that is in you, sir, all your resources to be deposited in the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Thank you for being our father, because we know that you could have decided to accept some other positions in life. But your humility is unmatched. Some could have decided to be the president of Nigeria, but you brought yourself, even under the authority of our constitution, to be able to do this. And we know that God indeed will reward you and your generations for this great courage and humility that you have displayed. So it is then that history is about to be made as I invite His Highness Muhammad Sanusi II, CON Serikin Kanu, to please, sir, come and let us drink from your wealth and well of wisdom.
The President of the Nigerian Society of Engineers and past presidents, members of the executive and members of the society. Let me begin by saying how honored I am to have been invited to speak to you at your annual general meeting. As mentioned by the President, I had an invitation to be at the opening ceremony. I was unable to attend because of prior commitments. And also, if I recall, the invitation wanted me to give a keynote speech. And this being so close to elections, I am avoiding keynote speeches. I have decided that so long as the Emir of Kano speaks, there is nothing like an uncontroversial topic. Even if I say build a bridge, there will be something, some interpretation to that that will make it a topic of controversy. So I'm pleased to see that you're talking about engineering for sustainable development. And I'm here just to give a goodwill message and to make a few remarks. You know, when you talk about infrastructure in a developing economy like Nigeria, what comes to my mind is Nigeria in the 1950s and 1960s. And we should ask ourselves, why did we have all these Chinese companies in Kaduna and Kano and Lagos and Ibadan. Textiles, footwear, light manufacturing, machine tools. Why were they in Nigeria and not in China? And the answer is simple. In 1960, the infrastructure in Nigeria was much better than the infrastructure in China. It was easier to produce goods and services in Nigeria than to produce on mainland China. China is my favorite example when I talk about development. It's a country I have followed closely for a long time. Some of the reasons are personal. My father was our first ambassador to China in 1972. Well, I suppose you're clapping for my father. He was the one who achieved it, not for me. The point I'm trying to make was, in the 1970s, my father had to leave Peking every 2 weeks to go to Hong Kong to buy essential commodities. This was just 40 years ago. He had to go to Hong Kong to shop. That's how bad it was. Up to the late 70s, up to the end of the Cultural Revolution, when Deng Xiaoping started the opening up of China, China had 700 million people living in extreme poverty. 700 million. China had, in the 1970s, only 8 million university graduates. Today, China has over 300 million graduates. Today, China has less than 30 million people. It has reduced extreme poverty from 70% of its population to less than 1% in 40 years. All the great advances in reduction in poverty in the world have come from China. So, you know, we talk about miracles. When I go to China, I tell them, I don't like the word or that phrase, Chinese miracle. You know, we keep talking about Asian miracles, Chinese miracles. Because when you say miracle, it conjures the image of some extraterrestrial, supernatural beings coming to do something. These are human beings like us. Just good thinking, hard work, and a sense of self-worth. One man, Deng Xiaoping, woke up one day and said, you know what? Communism does not mean we should all be poor. We can be a socialist country, but we have to lift our people out of poverty. We cannot continue to look at the rest of the world and admire them. And so when people ask me, what is it that we lack in this country? What is it that people lack? What is it that leaders lack? What is it that the elite in Nigeria lack? My answer is always that we lack a sense of self-worth. We do not know our own value. And you can see it everywhere. We're happy to go to Dubai and look at that beautiful airport, spend our money in the villas, go to the Burj Khalifa, take our children to ski in the desert. Where was Dubai 40 years ago? What was Dubai? Desert. Nothing. Why don't we ever dream of turning Nigeria into the Dubai of Africa? What would it take? You know, the president spoke about the palace. How did this start? Shortly after I became emir, I went for a meeting in Amsterdam. And the Queen, Queen Maxima, is an old friend from her days as Princess Maxima. So I was going to Amsterdam. I made a call, and the Queen and King invited us for dinner. I went with two of my cousins who are here. I went to the palace. We had dinner. And I come back, I said, look, suppose Queen Maxima comes to Nigeria, and I invite her to my palace for a dinner. Would she be as impressed as I was about her palace? And I said, I will build a palace in Kano where I can invite the Queen of England for tea, and she will not feel embarrassed. What he saw was done in less than 4 years. And so the point for me is, how long would it take for Nigeria to transform itself? It will not take 40 years or 30 years. All it takes is for us to decide on our own self-worth. Now to engineers. My favorite engineering story was 1980s. My father doing some construction, and a cousin of mine who was an engineer was supervising the building, and he came all dressed like the president. So my father looked at him and said, you know, when we were young, engineers always came in shorts and t-shirts, and you know they're here to work. What are you doing here dressed as if you're going to a wedding? But it says something fundamental. In China, if you have an engineer, he gets his hands dirty. You see him working on machines, working on vehicles, working on electrical work. In Nigeria, the engineer sits in an air-conditioned room. And those who do the work are the mechanics, electricians, people who call vulcanizers. So I wonder really, when you have a degree in engineering and you have to go and look for an electrician to fix your air conditioning, don't we have a problem? Don't we have a problem? And it is a problem that goes to the heart of our entire concept of what an education is. And I think one of the greatest responsibilities you have is to help us look and rethink the curriculum, so that people who actually come out, especially in the technological areas, engineering, medicine, agronomy, technology, there is absolutely no reason why a graduate of agriculture should be applying for a job in a bank. And this is not just China. I went to a university in the Sudan in the 1990s that had only 2 faculties. Now it's a very big university with so many faculties. The Faculty of Agricultural Science was established after I left, about 20 years ago. I went to the university recently, and they took me to the university farm. The students of the Faculty of Agriculture were the ones running the farm. The university farm generates 80% of the revenue needed to run the university. The university is maintained by the farm. The students run poultry, they have animal husbandry, they produce the milk, they produce yogurt, they produce butter, they produce jam, frozen meat, all directly from animals and poultry and crops on the university farm. And as I saw this, two things occurred to me. One, that graduates of faculties of agriculture in Nigeria, if you give them a farm and give them money, they probably will not be able to do that. They know the theory, but they have not had that practical experience and training while they were in the university. But the second thing that went through my mind, very, very sadly, was that when Ahmad Bello set up the Institute of Agricultural Research in Ahmad Bello University in Zaria, he probably had in mind producing these types of people. But we have not. So, for me, my message to myself and to other Nigerians is, let us rediscover our sense of self-worth. Let us go beyond admiring other people, worshiping other people, wanting to visit other people and spend our money in other countries. Let us decide that we want to be admired. Why is it that in Africa today we talk about Rwanda? Go to Rwanda, it's a pride for all Africans. Go to Ethiopia, especially under Meles Zenawi. Go to Cote d'Ivoire today with Alassane Ouattara. Look at what is happening with the new and improved Kenya under Kenyatta. Why is it that when people talk about models in Africa, they don't talk about Nigeria? Yet, 1 out of every 5 black Africans is Nigerian. 70% of the West African population is Nigeria. But ask anybody outside of Africa for a model country, for a model people, he will not call Nigerians. Why? And why do we not feel the desire to change that? For ourselves, just for our dignity, not because Transparency International talks about corruption or, no, for ourselves as human beings. Don't we have that sense of self-worth that we want when people talk about Rwanda? Look at Rwanda Air. Look at their conference center, Kagame. Look, you go to Rwanda today, if you give a tip, they will not accept it. Tip, not bribe, tip. At the airport, they serve you tea, they serve you coffee, you give them money, they will say no. In Nigeria, before they serve you tea, you pay. After they serve you, you pay before you leave. So, what can we do in our lives? What can we do? And this is not just about politics, it's about all of us. You have 200 million Nigerians, we have families, we have neighbors, we have students. We are mentoring young people. Until we each take that responsibility beyond our degrees and spread the importance of this sense of personal dignity and self-worth, this shame that you feel. You know, when I go and people talk about Rwanda, I feel shame. I'm happy for them, but I feel ashamed. What is Rwanda? And they just came out of genocide, just came out of a massive war that almost rendered the country extinct. Yet they're a better example of how a country is run than Nigeria. Cocoa. People talk about Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. Cocoa. Not Nigeria. Oil. We produce crude. What is our largest import from the United Kingdom? Petroleum products. What is our largest import from France? Petroleum products. We are supposed to be an oil-producing country. We spend all our foreign exchange importing products. What are all you engineers doing that we don't have refineries? How come the Chinese who don't have oil are building refineries in South Sudan, building refineries in Nigeria? What are you guys doing? What are you doing? Your best and brightest. First of all, when we're in school, for you to get into engineering, you needed to have AAB, AAA, math, physics, chemistry. These are the brightest brains of every generation. You go into engineering, you finish, yet you cannot build a refinery. What is your greatest ambition? To be employed by Shell or Mobil and work for a multinational corporation. No, seriously, is this how you build a country? Is this how you build a nation? How many of you have designed refineries and built them? I mean, this is just one clear area for me. We spend billions of dollars importing petroleum products. We spend billions of dollars subsidizing those products. I mean, this is, of course, very bad economic policy. That's a different issue. The engineers don't make the economic policy. But even engineers cannot make a worse economic policy than that. You subsidize a product. You make it easy for Nigerians to buy a product that is produced in refineries located in Europe. You create jobs, keep jobs open in England and America and France so that they can buy your crude, refine it for you, sell it to you at a high price, and you subsidize that product and take that money out of education, out of health, out of power, out of infrastructure. You have an energy crisis, but you are spending money to keep refineries open abroad. You guys need to save us by building our refineries. We had car assembly plants that have closed down. Why? After 20 years, 30 years, Peugeot Automobile, Volkswagen could not have local content. Anytime they told you local content, it was water and paint. We could not produce flat sheets. I mean, look, we can blame the governments and the politicians anyhow we want, and we should blame them. But between 1970 and now, how many engineers has Nigeria produced? I mean, in this hall, you're all engineers. I'm sure in this meeting alone you have several thousands. And among all of you, we cannot produce flat sheets of steel. We can't produce, we have to import flat sheets to make cars, to make machines. You know, we have the petrochemical base, we have natural rubber, we have iron, we have aluminum, we have silicon. We can produce the glass, we can produce the sheets, we can produce the tires, we can produce the engines, we have the fuel and the energy. Every raw material you need to produce a car, you will find in this country. But we cannot. You know, so if there's one message I have for you, is let us all look at ourselves in the mirror. And after the embarrassment of seeing what we are seeing compared to others, let us try and make sure that when we meet next year, some of you will tell me I have built a refinery. Somebody will tell me I have started an assembly plant. Somebody will tell me I'm producing small machine tools. Someone will tell me I have built a small IPP. And I certainly hope that in a few years, we'll see this country transform, if for nothing, that the leaders of the country at the national and state and local level, and when I say leaders, just for the press, I'm not just talking about politicians, including myself. I hope that we will all begin to remember that if we have a sense of self-respect, there should be something more important to us than sitting in an office, having a title for 4 years and a title for 8 years, and being a footnote in history. He was so-so, president, governor, emir. He was this for so many years. And then when you look at those years and try to see what has he achieved, what has he left behind, what has he contributed, there is nothing. I think the greatest damage we can do to ourselves is to live in this world and die. And after our death, there is nothing to show for what we did. And those who have the greatest opportunity to leave a lasting impact are the engineers. Because you are the ones who build. And you build things to last. Some people die and leave behind ideas. It's very rare, very difficult. A few people do. Great philosophers. Ideas which may or may not be useful to some people. We still read about Kant, we still read about all these philosophers, we read about Rousseau, we read Descartes. But frankly, I'm not sure how much use it is to me to start asking myself, how do I know that I exist? It's a great philosophical idea, but I don't know how useful it is to me. I know I'm hungry, so I exist. I don't need to know any philosophy. But if you build a bridge and build a road and build a refinery and build cars and manufacture shoes and produce those things that we are spending money importing, and grow this economy and create jobs, you will leave a legacy. So I hope each one of you will decide today what legacy they want to leave behind, apart from the fact that I was a member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. I was on the executive. I was the president. I graduated in I was the first engineer from the North. Yeah, big deal. What have you built in the North? So, do your engineering. Before that day comes when all of us, there's some engineering that happens every time. We have local engineers who don't have degrees. They do some construction and they build some nice things, hundreds and millions of them. They are called graves. So before you become enclosed in that work of engineering, make sure you leave yours behind. Thank you.